you guys for being here tonight because I know that it takes a lot of effort and a lot of dedication for you guys to join us. So thank you, and I hope that you guys will find the information useful. So tonight, we are going to dive into everyone's favorite topic, which is credit and how to make good credit choices. Hopefully you guys will find some activities and maybe even some games or simulations to use with your students to spice up this content a little bit as well. So as I said earlier, my name is Amanda Stiglbauer. I am the project manager for SC Economics. I have been with the council for a little over 4 years. And I'm also a high school economics teacher out at Blythewood High School in Richland School District 2 and serve as a master teacher for our National Council for Economics Education. I love all things econ and personal finance as it relates to economics as well. So I'd like to ask you guys if you would take a second to introduce yourself in the chat box. Let me know what school you're from and how you have recently used credit. So introduce yourself. I know most of your faces and your names. That's the beauty of this organization and being able to see you guys quite often now. How have you guys recently used credit? Just trying to think of my answer to that as well. I know I just paid my credit card bill, if that counts. Bought a car back in March. All right, we are kind of all over. Okay, went with limited cash to Walmart, purchasing groceries. Got some people from the upstate. That's fantastic, Laura. You lowered your interest rate on your credit card. Super proud of you. Yeah, okay. Welcome, Crystal. Good to see you. Hey, Stephanie at Fairfield Central. Paid off your car. Congratulations. A lot of things to celebrate in here tonight. Good job, guys. So those are certainly little stories we can share with our students as we're teaching them about credit too, because they need to know, obviously, that we are human and we make good choices and we also make bad choices. So I do elect to share my bad choices with my students as well. So hopefully they can learn from my mistakes. So cool. Thank you guys for introducing yourselves, just taking a little time out of your busy life to just chill with us for an hour tonight. So what do we have on tap this evening? Well, we are kind of jam-packed with some ed tech tools, which is what I like. In the era of online learning, I have really taken a fond approach to making this work for my students and for me. So engagement is the key. If you have been on a webinar with me so far this year, you may have seen me use some of these tools before, but I will talk you guys through each of the new tools and talk to you about how I use those in my classroom and just some ideas. And feel free to jump in with any of your comments, either in the chat box or you're welcome to unmute yourself. This is all about you as well. So tonight we're going to start with the Mentimeter, which is a word cloud feature. That is only one of the features that Mentimeter offers. Has many more features, but it is one of the things that we call freemium. Some of the features are free, but I have to delete my Mentimeters over and over and over, just like Padlets, because they tell me I'm out of room on my free space. We will dive into some content on credit, followed by another ed tech tool that I know a lot of teachers, especially as we've moved from online learning to hybrid learning and all the intricacies that involves. A lot of teachers are really enjoying Edpuzzle, which is an ed tech tool I almost gave up on a couple of years ago. I'm glad that I'm using it again. So we'll look at an Edpuzzle and dive into, after that, some interactives. One of those is a credit score simulator, and the other one is a game that I absolutely love called Shady Sam. So we'll debrief Shady Sam and we'll see how shady you guys can get tonight in your lending to other people and how much money you can make by being sleazy. Lastly, we will look at an activity from the CEE's brand new curriculum on financial fitness for life. This activity actually comes from lesson 12 of the book, but it is called the 5 cases activity. In this activity, you guys will go into some breakout rooms and talk with your peers about whether or not the person in the situation should be granted credit. Why or why not? So you guys will be the lenders. Tonight, we are seeking to cover, I hate the word cover, but we're seeking to cover the South Carolina Social Studies Standards and Economics and Personal Finance 2.cc. So determine financially responsible ways that individuals acquire and use credit. This is part of the Personal Finance Standards, Standard 2, in the new Economics and Personal Finance course. And we have known for a couple of years that this was probably the standard that our teachers would need the most help with coming up with good, solid, relevant activities. So hopefully you guys will gain some of those tonight. The objectives for tonight's learning experience are: I can identify advantages and disadvantages of using credit. I can make decisions about the wise use of credit. So we will seek to fulfill those as we go through the night tonight. And to get us started, I'd like to do a little discussion based on a word cloud about when a person should use credit. There are times when we should potentially use credit, and there are times that we should probably avoid using credit. So how will we do this? We're going to click on this Mentimeter, and this Mentimeter allows you to enter words or a word and submit your answers. If you are not on the Nearpod, I'm going to put the Mentimeter link in the chat box for you right quick. And then I will also, just very quickly, because I know some of you are just now joining, I will also put the Nearpod codes in the chat box again for you. So if you guys will just take a few minutes and give me a few words and submit them. You're welcome to submit multiple times if you'd like. If you get real excited about this word cloud activity, I know that you guys are like super on fire and ready to learn at 7:08 p.m., right? Around bedtime. So go ahead and take a few minutes to respond to the question, when should a person use credit? And I will show you the beautiful responses you guys have. Okay, you guys are some pretty smart cookies. I see a lot of really good responses coming in. And you guys will see, if you've never used Mentimeter before, one of the things that I really like about Mentimeter is that it does aggregate the responses from the crowd. And so you can see the most common responses are in the middle and they're larger. So probably several of you have listed buying a house, absolute last resort, emergencies. And then some of these are obviously overlaps because it doesn't recognize building versus build a house, buy a car versus buying a car. But I know that I am a visual learner, just like most of my students are visual learners, and we like to see visually a representation of what we are learning. So this is a really cool way to kind of get students thinking about a concept, but it's also a good way to do like an exit ticket. So formative assessments are really cool to do with Mentimeter. And it's different than what they do a lot of times on like a Google form or submit your Google Doc. So when we do something a little bit different, I know that students have a little bit of fun with it. So let's debrief a few of these before we get started today. So I see a lot of the same ones about buying a home, purchasing a car, building credit. All of these are great. Emergencies. Vacation. We actually are going to talk about vacation and one of the activities today, whether or not you should use a credit card for vacation. Someone put Sky Miles, and so those two may coincide. Are you using a credit card to build up your Sky Miles or to build up your hotel points? And are you disciplined enough to pay off that card and not accrue interest on it? Are you really utilizing it to the best of your ability and not allowing the lender to take advantage of you? So a dream vacation is another one. School loans, of course, that is an important type of credit because school loans help us to improve our human capital and hopefully help us to earn a greater source of income over time. So you guys are the rock stars of the night. Wish I was teaching y'all online every day. Y'all did a fabulous job with that. So that is a super duper easy assessment to make for your students. Literally, I chose the color, typed in the question, and copied the link and the code onto my slide, and we're ready to go. So I like things that are easy peasy like that, and I don't get down a rabbit hole thinking about what colors and what pictures I want on something. So let's dive into some of the content related to using credit and using credit wisely. When and where should we use it? So as we start thinking about the use of credit, it of course involves decision making. And as we talk about decision making, probably throughout the course of these webinars, you guys have been exposed to the idea of cost benefit analysis, right? And so even if that was during one of these webinars or you're a super cool person and are teaching this in your class to your students already, we know that cost benefit analysis is really just an everyday occurrence. This is how we make decisions, especially major decisions. And so I teach high schoolers. One of the major decisions that they have to make as seniors is, are they going to go to college? Are they going to go to the military? Are they going to go straight into the workforce or a trade field? And that is really a decision that requires immense cost and benefit analysis. And to bring it home to them, we just talk about making a simple T-chart, because making a T-chart, our pros and cons, really is how people do cost benefit analysis. So what are the things that we should consider before even thinking about using credit? Well, there's step number one, actually thinking about the use of credit, right? Not just getting a credit card because the store is offering you this tremendous discount, this one time only, right? So don't fall for those traps, although those are pretty good deals sometimes. So some things that we should do as our research and our students should research are, what are the interest rates? Is the interest rate a fixed interest rate or is it a variable interest rate? What's the loan term? How long am I going to be paying this thing off? Am I going to be paying off this car for 84 months? And am I going to keep the car for that long? And how much is that going to cost me? What is the APR? What are some of the fees associated with this form of credit? Are there startup fees? Is there an annual fee that I have to pay for this card that's giving me all these cool Sky Miles? My hotel card just plopped that on me this month, a whopping $95. Wasn't too happy about that, right? So it is important that we investigate those very, very, very fine things that they put in the fine print when we think about applying for credit, whether it's a credit card or another type of loan. It's also important for us to show students what is the true cost of using credit. Okay, and most of this is encompassed in how much we're paying to use someone else's money, right? How much are we paying in our interest payments? And how much time is it going to take us to pay that card off or that loan off? And what grace periods may a credit card or any other type of loan have? So these are some terms and some things to help your students consider. And a lot of these are absolutely just completely foreign to students. So one of the best ways to look at this is to show them a credit card application. I mean, I receive about 10 of them a day, right? As long as it doesn't have your information on it, or you can black it out. So let's talk about how we measure a person's credit worthiness, which is really what we're looking at tonight. This is the goal. We want to see how lenders look at us, whether or not we're credit worthy, what kinds of interest rates we receive, etc. So that begins with one of the first C's of credit, and that is capacity. So capacity considers the individual's ability to pay back the loan. Do I have the capacity to pay it back, or am I going to default on my loan? So how do banks and other lenders, how do they measure this? They consider one of the most important aspects is, of course, your sources of income. Of course, this could be your job, or this could be other types of income. If you have a side gig, if you receive child support or alimony, that could be a source of income, Social Security, and things like that. Those factors are all included in your capacity to repay the loan. Is your income steady? Do you have gaps in your employment? Have you been with the same employer for many years? Or do you hop around from job to job? We're looking for people who are stable and secure, right? So a person who is able to stay at a job for an extended period of time and not hopping around, that's probably a person that has a greater capacity to pay back a loan. Also, a lender would look at how much are you paying in bills, to begin with. So what are your monthly living expenses? What kind of debts do you already have? And based on those debts, is it safe for them to give you a loan? Is it safe for you to take out additional money? The number of dependents that you have. So let's say, I call myself Miss Stig in my class. So let's say Miss Stig has makes $100,000 a year as a teacher, right? I don't know what world I'm going to be in, but if I make $100,000 a year, to most people, that's like, wow, that's a pretty good bit of money, especially to educators. But if I have 10 children, I'm going to be kind of strapped for cash still, right? So the number of dependents certainly matters. And then lenders also look at your level of educational training because they want to see that you have the potential capacity to earn more money. So that's the first C of credit with capacity. Number two is character. Character measures or attempts to measure someone's reliability to repay a loan. And character is the most difficult of the three C's to actually measure, because how do you measure character, right? How do you judge a person's character? Yes, Stephanie, I agree. Let's advocate for that $100,000 for a teacher's salary. I totally agree with you. So when we look at a person's character, we want to know whether or not they're reliable or not, and whether they are safely using credit. So the credit score is actually a way of measuring a person's character, because it does tell if they have paid their bills in the past, or if they're used to being late on paying bills, how long they have had credit, and their success in using credit. You also can measure credit by looking at perhaps the number of years you've been at the same address. Again, kind of the same principle as we talked about earlier with your employment. We're not hopping around from address to address. We have a pretty stable lifestyle. And secondly, if they need to repo your car or repo the, flat screen TV that you bought on credit, they need to know where to come find it, right? So living at the same address is pretty important. Do you have a criminal record? Can you get quality character references? And of course, this is where it gets a little icky, because if a lender is asking me for a character reference, I'm just going to say, you can call my mama and my best friend and people who are going to say all these wonderful things about me, right? So herein lies the reason why character is such a hard indicator to measure. So character is our second C of credit. And the third C of credit is called collateral. So when we look at a person's collateral, we're considering the assets that they have that could be reused to repay that loan. So if I default on my loan for my car, my asset is my car. And so when the bank repossesses my car, they could resell my car to someone else and earn at least some of the money back that they are losing, right? So these are your assets. So what could some of these actually look like? So we could look at some of your financial assets, right? Do you have money in a savings account? Do you have a 401k or 403b retirement plan? Do you have stocks and bonds, other financial assets that you could use in case you were not able to pay your loan with just your regular income? And then there are other real assets that we can look at that could be used as collateral, like your home for your mortgage and land, cars and boats, although those are depreciating assets for sure. Electronics, another depreciating asset, but still it's better than being out of luck if you're the lender, right? So collateral is our third C. And I just want to take just a second to address the fact that if you have been teaching personal finance or economics, you've taught about credit for years, you may know that there are 3 C's of credit, and some textbooks or workbooks talk about the 5 C's of credit. I'm just going to keep it simple for us tonight. So there's no right or wrong way to do that. So we are going to look very quickly at some of the advantages and disadvantages of using credit before we dive into some of our first activities of the night. And some of these advantages are ones that are cited in the Financial Fitness for Life book, but I have a little beef with some of them. So we'll talk about that too. So some advantages are it could certainly help people to acquire valuable assets. Think home, right? Or vacation home. That would be so nice. One day, I'm dreaming. So this is one of the ones that I have an issue with. Credit can help people lead happier lives. I never want for my students or my own personal children to think that money buys happiness. So I say that with a caveat. It can make things a little bit less difficult most times, but money doesn't buy happiness. And then credit, as you guys mentioned earlier, credit can really help people in an emergency situation, especially you think about like medical bills, and COVID is such a big thing right now. If we go into the hospital, we've talked about this, we're looking at like at least a $4,000 bill, right? So it's going to be crazy. The average hospital bill is right over $30,000 for COVID right now. So just a little fact for you guys tonight. And then we look at some of the disadvantages of using credit as well. A lot of people just use credit too much and they don't use it wisely. It also requires borrowers to pay interest unless you're paying your credit card off each month. And of course, misuse of credit can lead to severe consequences in the future, like not being able to qualify for future loans and potentially your assets being repossessed if you cannot pay back the loan. So it sounds like all doom and gloom, but we will have a little bit of fun with it. The Fico score range that we're looking at is a range of credit scores, with 300 being the absolute worst and 850 being the best. Great job, you've done a great job with your credit. So, and then of course there are ranges in between that are bad, good, excellent. So one of the tools that I want to introduce to you guys tonight, just give me a little shout out in the chat box. Give me a yes or a no. Have you ever used Edpuzzle? Who has used Edpuzzle? Okay. Yeah, it looks like we're about even. So I'll just tell you guys, one of the reasons that I like Edpuzzle, especially in the type of learning situation that we're in now, is they're very easy to make, and they're easy to grade too. So you can find pretty much anything off of YouTube or other video clips and very quickly make an assignment in Edpuzzle. And if you are a Google Classroom user, your classrooms import directly into Edpuzzle. So it is a very seamless process, super easy. If I can do it, anybody can, I promise. So that is another reason why I like Edpuzzle as well. We are going to do a short Edpuzzle, and I'll tell you guys a couple of like best practices for viewing this. You guys are welcome to view this on your own and answer the questions on your own, okay? And I will also put the link in the chat box for you. If you are on a phone or just don't wanna, you just wanna sit back and listen, that's cool too. We're gonna go through this together on my Zoom screen. So it's up to you, but you might wanna like mute me out for about 5 minutes if you're gonna do it on your own, okay? So this Edpuzzle is from PBS, and they have a series called 2 Cents. If you teach economics or you teach personal finance, 2 Cents is a fantastic resource for short video clips under 7 minutes. I love all of them. So in a lot of the webinars that I do, I'm like, is there a 2 Cents video? They're super. They're just fantastic. So we are going to look at what goes into your credit score together, and I will put, no, let's try that again. Here we go. Okay, guys, so I am going to give you guys the link in the chat box in case you want it. Let me minimize a couple of these things. Okay, so for those of you who might want to do this alone, that's totally fine. I've linked it in the chat box below. And then for those of you who just want to sit back and drink your water, we'll do it together. So this is called What Goes into Your Credit Score.
If a friend asked to borrow $100 from you, would you do it?
You're probably thinking, that depends on the friend. Are they trustworthy? Have they borrowed money from me before? And if so, did they pay it back?
Borrowing money is as old as civilization itself, and for a long time, it was based on personal relationships and recommendations. The only way for a lender to know whether they could trust someone to pay them back was by knowing them personally, or if someone else they already trusted vouched for them.
But when credit became big business, lending companies needed a more efficient way to decide which borrowers they could trust. So in 1956, a data analytics firm called Fair, Isaac and Company started creating mathematical models that used a borrower's history to measure their risk. And in 1989, they debuted the first industry standard algorithm, Fico Score.
Okay, so you guys can see that as we move through different parts of this video, it stops us and it gives us a multiple choice question. Those are easy to insert. You can also insert notes and other types of questions as well. So in 1989, which company introduced a way to measure the history and risk of the individual termed the FICO score? Can anybody tell me this one?
Fair, Isaac and Company.
Very good. Fair Isaac and Company. Let's make sure we're right. Fantastic. All right, let's continue.
This formula was soon adopted by the big three credit reporting bureaus, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion.
Your FICO score is a 3-digit number between 300 and 850 that indicates to a lender how safe it is to lend money to you. A high score tells a lender you'll probably pay the money back on time, so they're more likely to give you a loan with good terms. A low score signifies that you might not be able to pay the money back, so if they're willing to offer you credit at all, they'll want to be compensated for the risk by charging more interest.
But it's important to
Okay, so the second question, a person who has a FICO score of 800 is most likely to have a higher or lower interest rate?
Lower.
Lower.
All right, we think lower. They're more credit worthy, right? We think that they're going to pay back their loan versus a person with 400
important to remember,
score.
this number doesn't represent who you are as a person, or even whether you are financially responsible. There are people with high credit scores who live paycheck to paycheck, and people with low credit scores who save like little chipmunks.
Your credit score only reflects your past relationship to debt. Every time you borrow or repay money, like taking out a credit card or making a student loan payment, the lender reports that activity to the credit bureau, where it goes into the math machine. But not all data is judged equally.
The largest percent of your FICO score is based on your payment history. So missing a payment is one of the worst things you can do. But thankfully, late payment dings are like broken bones. They may hurt for a while, but they eventually heal as long as you don't break that same bone again.
A close second is your credit to debt ratio. If you have a $1,000 limit on your credit card with a balance of $750, you're using 75% of your available credit. Hovering close to your limit is like driving on empty, which looks risky to credit bureaus. So you'll want that ratio to be under 25% when someone checks your credit. That's why paying down credit card debt can really help your score.
Okay, so ideally, a person should try to keep a credit to debt ratio of
Less than 25.
Less than 35%.
All right, let's try 25. Let's see what we get. You guys are smart cookies. Very good.
The length of your credit history makes up 15% of your score. It's based on the ages of your various accounts, and it's why older people often have higher scores than younger people. It's also why getting a credit card early, but using it conservatively, can help you have a higher score later in life.
10% of your score is based on credit diversity. There are 3 main types of credit: revolving, aka credit cards, installment, like student loans and car loans, and mortgages. An ideal credit report has a mix of all 3.
All right, the 3 types of credit that lenders are most concerned with. There are 3.
Revolving.
Installment.
Okay,
Mortgage.
and mortgages. Let's check our answers. Wow, 100 out of 100.
The last 10% comes from new lines of credit and credit checks or pulls. If you apply for a bunch of new credit cards in a short period of time, or if many different lenders have to check your score, that can be a red flag. Though there are exceptions. If you're shopping for a car loan or a mortgage, you'll usually have a window of 1 to 2 months in which multiple credit pulls won't affect your score much. Also, this only refers to pulls done by potential creditors, called hard pulls. Soft pulls by insurance companies or employers won't count against you.
The FICO model is the main way your score is calculated, but there are many variations depending on what the lender wants to know about you. And remember, your credit score is not the end-all be-all of financial health. But there are life goals that a good credit score can make a lot easier to achieve, like owning a house or starting a business.
If you want to know what your score looks like, many credit card and auto loan companies provide it on your monthly statement. Alternately, the big 3 credit bureaus are required by law to provide you with a free credit report once a year, but they'll only calculate a score for a fee. And don't worry, that's considered a soft pull and won't hurt your score.
It may seem a bit creepy that these faceless organizations are monitoring your activities in order to pass judgment on you, but it's really just our modern version of having a good borrowing reputation.
in which case the same old rules still apply. Try to borrow as little as possible and pay it back on time.
And that's our 2 cents.
Okay, so to wrap it up, to maintain a good credit score, a person should
Borrow as little as possible.
And pay it back on time.
All right, let's see what we got. Great job, guys. Fantastic. So one of the other cool things about Edpuzzle, just like Kahoot and Gimkit, if you guys are users of those, you can beg, borrow, and steal other people's stuff. So if this is one, Kurt, I hear you. If this is one that you want to steal, have at it. I'm always happy to share anything. And the cool thing also is that if you make a copy of one of these Edpuzzles, you can make changes to your own. So you can keep some of my questions and the ones that you want to take out. Like Kurt said, he didn't like that last one. You can just take that out and it's easy as pie and just insert another one in here. So last thing I'll say about Edpuzzle, and the last super duper cool thing, other than it grades it on its own, we like that you can cut videos, which is pretty cool as well. Sometimes that's a hard thing. Yeah, you do get the student scores, absolutely. So students who are in my grade book, I have the scores for. So they're automatically signed up through Google Classroom. But if you don't have Google Classroom, there is, I think, a code. I think that's what we used to do without Google Classroom. So that's a great question. Fantastic. Okay. So we are going to dive into one of the first games, and this may be, depending on how much time we have, this may be one of the only games that we play, but I'll show you guys the other credit simulation. I chose this one because it's a lot of fun. Shady Sam, I think, is the best game, in my opinion, on NextGen's website. So Shady Sam, you guys will be simulated as a loan shark, and you will be making decisions about whether to give people loans and what types of loans, at what interest rate, and what loan term you're going to give them. But your goal is to make the most money. Okay, so obviously in Shady Sam, you guys are going to be acting pretty shady, but this is a cool activity to show students how banks make money on them. Andrea said her students played this one yesterday. That's awesome. So you guys can click on the Nearpod and play on your own. Will take about 7 minutes. And then what I really want to know from you guys, after those 7 minutes have elapsed, I want to know how much money you made at first. Okay, so kind of keep track of, it's at the very top, how much money you're making and some of the things that you are learning along the way. Yeah, so my students, Kurt mentioned Credit Clash. My students had a hard time with Credit Clash, like trying to figure out how to make it work. But it is a really good one. It's a really good one. So I'm gonna zip my lips for about 7 minutes so y'all can concentrate on making the shadiest deals possible. And we'll come back together and talk about who made the shadiest deals, who made the most profit, some of the outlandish things that you guys learned. as we are kind of wrapping up Shady Sam, I'm not real sure what happened to my screen here, but we'll roll with it. I have a little collaboration board for you guys to think about. What did you learn by being Shady Sam? I'd like to, of course, know your profits. If you're on the Nearpod, you're welcome to put it on there. If you're not, you can simply put this in the chat box. That's cool too. What principles can this teach our students about credit? There are a lot of things that can be learned through this simple simulation. Always read that fine print. You guys are exactly right. So many hidden fees. You're right, Donna. How much money dealers make off of others? Absolutely. It was fun, but I know that people actually go to places like that. You're exactly right. And I think, like, I know that people actually go to places like that. I think we all know people who do. And maybe that's been us. But, you know, I think our students, they probably also know people in their lives who have gone to a loan shark, so to speak. Know how to calculate interest rates. APR is important. Pay close attention to the fine print, the hidden fees, early payoff fees. Isn't that crazy? Pay something off early. The longer the term of the loan, the higher you will pay, says Marafi. So we are extending the time period by which we're paying interest. It's a very good observation, one that students don't always understand. And you guys saw that hopefully through the game, because we look at the monthly payment, right? The monthly payment is the lowest. We're like, let's go with that. But in actuality, a lot of times we're paying more in our cost of credit. Look at the Long Shark's computer and the old walls to determine whether you should even go in there. That's fantastic. Well, guys, I hope that you enjoyed Shady Sam. I think that's a really neat way to teach kids the things to look at when they're considering credit. Oh, Kurt made $126,000 by stretching the loan term each time. Did anybody make more than $126,000? Right? Wow, Ashley, fantastic. Should I say good job, or should I say you guys are like really greedy misers? I'm not sure like how to, I'm not sure how I should say anything. I think I did, but I kept losing my screen. Sherry, you loan shark, you. Nice once, big mistake. Funny. All right, Kevin was pretty close. This is super interesting. So yeah, this is an activity as well. I don't know how many of your schools are doing like asynchronous days, but what a cool activity with a little reflection to do on an asynchronous day too. All right, so I wanted you guys to see, and we're not going to have time to actually do this now, but there is a thing called the Fico Score simulator that is pretty cool for your students to see. I'm just going to put the link here in the chat box for you, sweet peas, so that if you choose to visit this later, you can. But it goes through and gives you some different decisions, and based on those decisions, it kind of generates an estimated Fico score for you. For your students, you'd have to tell them, when I've done this in class with my kiddos, I tell them that we are just imagining we're adults. Okay, so think about the decisions that you probably will make as an adult. So what we're going to do as our breakout room activity pretty quickly is, you guys are pretty smart, pretty sly. So now that you have decided to be Shady Sams, you're going to be legitimate loan people. And so in your small consulting business, you are giving people advice who are thinking about applying for credit. For a small fee, you are going to offer your customers advice on whether they should apply for a loan or not. And your business has been successful because you understand the advantages and disadvantages of using credit that we've been talking about. You ask your clients what is more important to their future success, and you compare the advantages of using credit to the disadvantages of using credit. So this is your role tonight. In your breakout rooms, you guys will have 7 minutes to read through your assigned client profile. There are 5 client profiles. Your breakout room will correspond with your client's number. Okay, so breakout room 1, you will do client 1, breakout room 2, do client 2, etc. There are questions that are listed on that handout. So those are the questions that you guys will discuss. And then as we come back into the whole group, what I'd like to know from you guys, and we may just have to call on a couple of you, but what I want to know from y'all is if you would recommend this person apply for a loan or not. So I'm going to go ahead and get the breakout room started. But before I do that, I want to share this link with you in the chat box that you'll need to pull up before leaving for your breakout room. The chat box, for some reason, disappears when you head off to the breakout room. So here is a link to credit decisions. And I'm going to go ahead and get your breakout room started. Please let me know if we're having any issues. Okay, so I'm going to open the rooms. We are going to come back here at 7:57. And here again is the link to that document in the Google Drive. Please make sure you open that before leaving and joining your breakout rooms.
Hey, Amanda, sorry, I got knocked off for some reason.
Hey, no worries, no worries. Let's see. I'm just gonna send. Did you have a room before, Stephanie?
I think you had me in one. I think.
Okay, then I'm gonna send you back there.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You ready, baby? Looks like we're getting everybody back. Y'all go ahead and check to make sure that you're muted until we have the opportunity to call on you and debrief. So I popped in on a couple of you, and then I don't know if you guys know, my husband was in here as well. He's a fellow econ teacher. So I heard him talking from downstairs, heard some lovely conversations, and I think we would have had some even better conversations if we wanted to spend a little bit more time. But do like to respect everyone's time. I know that we live very busy lives. So let's hear maybe from room 3. Tell us just a little bit about your person and whether or not you recommend that this person get credit.
So we had a young person that I believe just turned 21 years old and was in college and has made relatively good grades preparing for graduation. His friends, along with him, wanted to take a vacation, to start celebrating. And sure enough, the vacation would cost about $1,500. He was low on cash and did not have enough money to actually afford the vacation. So the question was, should credit be loaned to him, and do you feel he would be in good standing to pay the loan back? Of course, the reason he wanted credit is for pleasure, to enjoy himself on the vacation. However, if he's low on cash now, and when he returns from vacation, how would he be able to pay back the money if he, doesn't have any plans in place to repay, to earn any money? So we decided not to loan him any credit.
I think they made a good decision. How about you guys? So guys, we are right at 8 o'clock. I want to make sure that I respect your time. I would love to hear from all of the other groups, but I did pop in on you guys, most of you that I had the time to, and it sounded like y'all were having some really good, rich conversations, which is what we want from our students as well. I know that y'all have lots of things to take care of tonight, so I want to pop in the chat box the evaluation for tonight's workshop. This gives us perspective on what we're doing well, what we need to improve on, and how we can better serve you guys as teachers in the future. This is truly what we love to do, and just let us know what we can do to further help you. We will have a spring webinar series that we will be planning, and it will come out very similar to the one that we're having in the fall. We may do not every single week next time. It's kind of been a killer, but it's been so fun and enjoyable. Again, we will do another incentive, hopefully. I know a lot of you are here for that, but hopefully I know that you guys are here for the information and the activities as well. Do you guys have any questions I can answer for you? The last activity is something that I will include in the follow-up email that I send you guys tomorrow. So I'll include the slides and all of the other resources that we used, as well as that activity. Great question. I've put my email address in the chat box. If you guys have been to these before, you probably know me, know how to get in contact with me. But I'm always happy to help you with anything that you need, econ and personal finance related or whatever related. It's always a pleasure to be with cool colleagues like you guys. So Let me put in the chat box one more time, the evaluation for tonight. This is like your golden ticket to those 5 webinars during the fall. So make sure you give us your feedback. And once you're done, you're done. Have a great evening. Thanks for spending time with me tonight.